Today on the show, we are so fortunate to have Ann-Mara Lanza, who is running for a seat with the Select Board in Wellesley. So welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm going to start off by asking you a very simple question. What inspired you to do this and run for a seat on the Select Board?
Oh, thank you for asking. Have worked in Wellesley or worked in the Wellesley town government for about 13 years, and I've really enjoyed it. I've served as a library trustee, a town meeting member. I was liaison to the school building committee, and I served as a member of the Unified Plan Steering Committee. And I've also been very involved with the League of Women Voters, and I've been on the board for about 10 years. I find serving in town government just fascinating, and I love being able to give back to my community. I originally got involved in 2006 in order to save our branch libraries that were going to be closed. And I have spent some of my time over the past 13 years helping to reimagine them and to make sure that their futures are secured. And I feel like I've met that challenge, and I'm looking for other ways that I can serve the community. And there's a natural fit on the Board of Selectmen, the Select Board. The Select Board's main job is to manage the financial well-being of our community. I have an MBA from Wharton, and I was a management consultant in my previous life, and I'm very comfortable discussing numbers. I've also spent time on town meeting and on the library board of trustees, understanding how the town budget is put together. The other really important job of the Select Board is determining the direction for our community. And that is also a perfect fit for me. I'm a strategic thinker. I like to think about where we should go and what the big picture is. And so I'm very excited for the challenges of being on the Select Board.
Wow, excellent. Good to know. And what are one or two of your main positions for candidacy?
A great question. I think a lot of people understand that I have been working very hard to talk about affordable housing. About 2 years ago, I read a book called The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein, and I often say that it changed my life. The book, I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yes, it was a World of Wellesley annual book read book, and he actually came here and he led a discussion group. So
I think that's how we ended up reading it as well. But that book really focused on segregation in America, and really on the fact that most of our segregation was as a result of government policy at all levels of our government, from the federal government down to the town level. And honestly, that was not what I had been taught growing up. And it was really I learned a lot from reading this book. And, I knew about redlining. I think a lot of us do. But in terms of the very specifically the government targeted and purposely aimed for segregation in our housing, I don't think that is something that it was generally known in our country.
And the fact that it was only done away with in 1989 or something like that, 1986, 1989, where they actually officially disbanded that policy or something. There was some mention of that.
Right. There was actually a number of times actually over the 20th century that courts determined that different parts of the policy were unconstitutional, but it didn't really change.
Right.
And yes, now we have a Fair Housing Act, and you can't discriminate in housing. But still, we're left with all of the results of years and years of public policy. So I look at Wellesley and I see that we weren't immune to that policy. Our single family zoning was specifically created to keep people out. Our veterans housing, which we're also proud of, was also created by the federal government only for white veterans. And of course, the result of that is that Wellesley is has very little racial diversity. And this, and it is not because people of color don't want to live here. It is because of the results of all of this government action. And there were rules set up so they couldn't live here. This exclusion from the housing market has actually, where it's taken us today is that, Black families were not able to take advantage of the housing boom that occurred after World War II. And today, the result of that is that white families have about 10 times the wealth of Black families, all because of that exclusion from housing. So I want to come back to Wellesley. In Wellesley, we have a housing affordability challenge for everyone. Our seniors, the seniors who want to downsize, there's virtually no place for them to do that in town. There's no availability of housing that's affordable to young families or to our town workforce. So police officers, teachers, firemen, none of them have the ability to live in town, or it's very difficult. So Wellesley is becoming more and more exclusive at a time when our country is becoming more and more diverse. We're really heading in the other direction. And so I feel that this is a really important issue for us to address as a community. What do we want our community to be? This is a conversation I've already started with my work with the League of Women Voters. We've run several community housing discussions, and it's something that I want to continue as a member of the select board. We need to get the community involved. We need to figure out the best solutions for our community and need to address this together.
Right. Wow, that's fascinating, and thank you for sharing. That's really an interesting point. And so, what are some of your hobbies, just to lighten the mood and get to know you a little bit? Like, what's your favorite color? What are some of your hobbies? What do you do besides working really hard to keep this town running?
Well, I will tell you, one of the things I love to do to take a break is I love to get to the outdoors. I love, we have a place up in New Hampshire, and I love to just go up there and sit and look at the mountains. I grew up hiking in the White Mountains of New Hampshire with my family. Some of my favorite family memories are hiking with my dad and my brothers. He used to wake us up at some incredibly early hour of the morning, all four of us, throw us in the car with a pillow, drive up to New Hampshire. We'd hike a mountain, then he'd throw us back in the car and we'd drive home. I have no idea now as a parent, thinking how he did this with 4 children. But honestly, that experience has informed me as a person. And, not only did it teach me that I could accomplish anything, because I can hike any mountain.
They just don't make kids like they used to, but yes, it seems that way. And you are hiking a lot of mountains.
Yeah. And so I tell my children that I can accomplish anything. They should know they can accomplish anything. But I do believe that hiking helped me understand that. It also informed my view of the natural world and my appreciation of our natural resources. And it's really the foundation of why I understand and support climate action, was because I spent so much time out in the world and out in the woods with my family.
Excellent. I was going to say you should come on my my geology tour of Wellesley.
I actually used to, when my kids were at school with my son, I actually led the environmental program. And I remember that geology tour, going over to the cemetery and seeing the lava rocks and all of that.
Yes, well, we redid that whole curriculum. So now we have all kinds of really fascinating, interesting academic tidbits that I'm sure will wow all your future cocktail party guests.
I'm sure. Yes, I'm absolutely sure.
You'll be sure to put that on your list. So sounds good. And what's your favorite color?
Well, I think I've decided that it's purple. No, I do love purple. And if you notice my campaign, it's all purple. I also love red, as I'm wearing red today.
I'll have to highlight that.
It's interesting because I chose purple.
Yeah.
Just because I do really love it. But then I realized, purple is the color of the suffragettes. And we've just celebrated the 100th anniversary of women's right to vote.
Yes.
And if you think about all those pictures of the suffragettes in white with the purple ribbon, it's a very powerful color.
It is. And it's also the color of royalty.
It is. And it's also the color of Prince, my husband's favorite artist.
Excellent. Look at that. It works in so many levels.
So many levels.
So interesting. So tell me briefly, tell me a story. Tell me about something that stayed with you, something that made you smile, something, you know, an experience from Wellesley that you've had that you reminisce over once in a
Oh,
while.
absolutely. I think it has to be something from the library. I have so enjoyed working with the library trustees, the library staff, with Jamie Jurgensen, our director, uh, for the past, well, the library for 13 years. Jamie, obviously not so long, but you know, it's just the greatest group of people, all focused on serving Wellesley. So, we come together for meetings and we actually have a lot of fun and we laugh a lot. Um, and Jamie, particularly, she has set this tone with her fearless and flexible staff. That's her phrase. And she really is. She is fearless and flexible. The staff are, and they just work so hard for Wellesley, so hard. Um, I'm still amazed that our library opened in August, and many of our surrounding communities haven't yet opened their libraries. And this was all because Jamie and her staff have an attitude that's just incredible, and a desire to serve our community. So it's just been so much fun working with
And
them.
it's pretty safe. They have a check-in desk right when you walk in the doors, and they have a whole, you know, system by how many people they let in. It's really amazing.
It absolutely is. And honestly, none of us get paid to
Right.
work in town government. It's all volunteer. So I always say that if you're not going to have fun, you shouldn't do it.
Right.
Um, it's not that it's not a serious job and you don't have to work hard, but
Right.
it's a lot of time. And I do think that, you can do a good job and do it with the right attitude
Right.
and have a good time.
Right. So what are some of the other things that you're involved with in town in Wellesley?
So I'm really involved at Temple Beth Elohim, and specifically in the Racial Justice Initiative. And it was really through that group that I read The Color of Law. And so my housing work has been very informed by my racial justice perspective. But I'm going to be honest, because of fair housing, fair housing works both ways. You cannot create housing in order to change the racial diversity of a community. Um, so although I'm informed on racial justice, that is not, no matter what I work with Wellesley to build, we're probably not going to move the needle very far in racial justice. It's going to take more work. It's going to take being a more welcoming community. It's going to take different things to do that. But just the fact that I'm talking about housing has made some people in town very upset because they are fearful of the other. They're fearful about who might move into town. Um, I actually received a couple of weeks ago, I received a very disturbing letter from a fellow town meeting member in answer to a question I asked, which was, what you love most about Wellesley. What was shocking about this letter, in addition to the racial sentiments in it, was that this town meeting member felt very comfortable sharing her racism with me. So I want to read just a little bit of the letter.
Please.
Because I think it does shine a light on a little of what we really need to understand about certain people in our community. So she says here, what I love about our community is that it is exactly how I want it. I do not need you or anyone else to dilute our community with your ideas of diversity. You have enjoyed the safety of this town enriched by successful and generous people. Now you want to destroy it by making changes that will destroy the safety that we have. You have a hell of a nerve to change a community after you got everything you needed out of it because it will not impact you. There are plenty of people of all different backgrounds. Black people make up 8% of the entire population. They like to be in their own community where they can share their traditions, culture, just like we do. If you don't like it here, move to Dorchester. Don't destroy our choices to be in a safe and rich town. Move and indulge yourself into a more diverse community if that's what you want. We don't want your values to destroy what we have. I hope you leave Wellesley.
Wow.
And this is because I'm trying to build affordable housing. I'm
Wow.
trying to build housing for our seniors, housing for our young families. Um, and I think the letter shows a lack of understanding. And this is, we've had in the past year, we've heard from so many new voices, young people that maybe we didn't listen to in the past. and some of what we've heard may not fit with what we thought we understood. I know I've learned a lot, and not just from the color of law. I've been learning from the young people in this community. This letter represents fear and ignorance, and we need to work together to overcome that fear. Welcoming people of different economic and racial backgrounds into our community, it's going to enrich our community and make it a better place to raise our children. So I hope that everybody will work with me on this goal.
Yeah, that was rather shocking. So thank you for sharing that letter. And it says a lot. It's a whole mixture of a lot of different concepts and a lot of different ideologies, beliefs, all kinds of things in there.
And I don't believe that this letter represents the whole of the Wellesley community. So I'm just using it as an example of something that I think we need to understand is out there.
Right.
And I believe, after watching people last year and talking to my neighbors, that many people in our community, most people in our community understand better than this particular person did.
And when you say watching people from last year, please elaborate on what you meant by that.
To be honest, I did not expect so many people to be out marching for the Black Lives Matter movement, and in response to incidents such as George Floyd being murdered. I do expect young people to get out there, but I was so impressed to see so many of my neighbors out
in
as
Wellesley,
well.
right?
In Wellesley,
right?
In Wellesley.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Again, the vote is March 2nd. And people know that they can vote from home and mail in ballots.
Absolutely. I do want to say that I believe very strongly in democracy and in the voice of the people. Through the League, I've worked very hard on voter education to help Wellesley residents understand their government and understand the issues so that they can vote effectively. Honestly, this is one reason I'm kind of disappointed. Last night at the select board meeting, the select board decided not to enact a state law that would require them to educate voters prior to a ballot initiative. So that made me a little bit sad. But we do have, for example, we do have a very important ballot initiative coming up this March. The town is being asked to decide whether we should honor Indigenous people on the second Monday of October. I have my opinions on this are very much informed by my racial justice values. And I spoke very strongly about this at town meeting. I do feel, as a member of the select board, that I need to listen to the voters. And I need to respond to that. So I'm asking everybody to please vote. Only about 20% of eligible voters vote in town elections, so your vote really matters. Go out on March 2nd or before that with a mail-in ballot. Please let us know what you think. Let us know what you want us to do. Thanks.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
And good luck.
Thank you.